Hi there and welcome. This is Book of Mormon Reader, and we are continuing on with our quest to read the Book of Mormon from the end to the beginning. And so we are on Ether chapter 9 today. Ether chapter 9 in the Book of Mormon. And now I, Moroni, proceed with my record. Therefore, behold, it came to pass that because of the secret combinations of Achish and his friends, behold, they did overthrow the kingdom of Omer. Nevertheless, the Lord was merciful unto Omer, and also to his sons and to his daughters, who did not seek his destruction. And the Lord warned Omer in a dream that he should depart out of the land. Wherefore Omer departed out of the land with his family, and traveled many days, and came over, and passed by the hill of Shim, and came over by the place where the Nephites were destroyed, and from thence eastward, and came to a place which was called Ablam, by the seashore, and there he pitched his tent, and also his sons and his daughters, and all his household, save it were Jared and his family. And it came to pass that Jared was anointed king over the people by the hand of wickedness, and he gave unto Achish his daughter to wife. And it came to pass that Achish sought the life of his father-in-law, and he applied unto those whom he had sworn by the oath of the ancients, and they obtained the head of his father-in-law as he sat upon his throne, giving audience to his people. For so great had been the spreading of this wicked and secret society, that it had corrupted the hearts of all the people. Therefore Jared was murdered upon his throne, and Achish reigned in his stead. And it came to pass that Achish began to be jealous of his son. Therefore he shut him up in prison, and kept him upon little or no food, until he had suffered death. And now was the brother of him that suffered death, and his name was Nimrah, was angry with his father because of that which his father had done to his brother. And it came to pass that Nimrah gathered together a small number of men, and fled out of the land, and came over and dwelt with Omer. And it came to pass that Achish begat other sons, and they won the hearts of the people, notwithstanding they had sworn unto him to do all manner of iniquity, according to that which he desired. Now the people of Achish were desirous for gain, even as Achish was desirous for power. Wherefore the sons of Achish did offer them money, by which means they drew away the more part of the people after them. And there began to be a war between the sons of Achish and Achish, which lasted for the space of many years, yea, unto the destruction of nearly all the people of the kingdom. Yea, even all, save it were 30 souls, and they who fled with the house of Omer. Wherefore Omer was restored again to the land of his inheritance. And it came to pass that Omer began to be old. Nevertheless, in his old age he begat Emer, and he anointed Emer to be king, to reign in his stead. And after that he had anointed Emer to be king, he saw peace in the land for the space of 2 years. And he died, having seen exceedingly many days, which were full of sorrow. And it came to pass that Emer did reign in his stead, and did fill the steps of his father. And the Lord began again to take the curse from off the land. And the house of Emer did prosper exceedingly under the reign of Emer. And in the space of 62 years they had become exceedingly strong, insomuch that they became exceedingly rich, having all manner of fruit, and of grain, and of silks, and of fine linen, and of gold, and of silver, and of precious things, and also all manner of cattle, of oxen, and cows, and of sheep, and of swine, and of goats, and also many other kinds of animals which were useful for the food of man. And they also had horses and asses, and there were elephants, and curlams and cumams, all of which were useful unto man, and more especially the elephants and curlams and cumams. And thus the Lord did pour out his blessings upon this land, which was choice above all other lands, And he commanded that whoso should possess the land should possess it unto the Lord, or they should be destroyed when they were ripened in iniquity. For upon such, saith the Lord, I will pour out the fullness of my wrath. And Emer did execute judgment and righteousness all his days, and he begat many sons and daughters. And he begat Coriantum, and he anointed Coriantum to reign in his stead. And after he had anointed Coriantum to reign in his stead, he lived 4 years, and he saw peace in the land. Yea, and he even saw the Son of Righteousness, and he did rejoice and glory in his day, and he died in peace. And it came to pass that Coriantum did walk in the steps of his father, and did build many mighty cities, and did administer that which was good unto his people in all his days. And it came to pass that he had no children, even until he was exceedingly old. And it came to pass that his wife died, being 102 years old. And it came to pass that Coriantum took to wife in his old age a young maid, and begat sons and daughters. Wherefore he lived until he was 142 years old. And it came to pass that he begat Com, and Com reigned in his stead. And he reigned 49 years, and he begat Heth. And he also begat other sons and daughters. And the people had spread again over all the face of the land, and there began again to be an exceedingly great wickedness upon the face of the land. And Heth began to embrace the secret plans again of old, to destroy his father. And it came to pass that he did dethrone his father, for he slew him with his own sword, and he did reign in his stead. And there came prophets in the land again, crying repentance unto them, that they must prepare the way of the Lord, or there should come a curse upon the face of the land. Yea, even there should be a great famine, in which they should be destroyed if they did not repent. But the people believed not the words of the prophets, but they cast them out, and some of them they cast into pits, and left them to perish. And it came to pass that they did all these things according to the commandment of the king Heth. And it came to pass that there began to be a great dearth upon the land, and the inhabitants began to be destroyed exceedingly fast, because of the dearth, for there was no rain upon the face of the earth. And there came forth poisonous serpents also upon the face of the land, and did poison many people. And it came to pass that their flocks began to flee before the poisonous serpents, towards the land southward, which was called by the Nephites Zarahemla. And it came to pass that there were many of them which did perish by the way. Nevertheless there were some which fled into the land southward. And it came to pass that the Lord did cause the serpents that they should pursue them no more, but that they should hedge up the way that the people could not pass, that whoso should attempt to pass might fall by the poisonous serpents. And it came to pass that the people did follow the course of the beasts, and did devour the carcasses of them which fell by the way, until they had devoured them all. Now when the people saw that they must perish, they began to repent of their iniquities, and cry unto the Lord. And it came to pass that when they had humbled themselves sufficiently before the Lord, he did send rain upon the face of the earth, and the people began to revive again, and there began to be fruit in the north countries, and in all the countries round about. And the Lord did show forth his power unto them in preserving them from famine. Here we are in Ether 9, and there's some interesting things in this chapter that are worth mentioning. One thing that if I just go back real quick, there are a lot of vocabulary words I'm sure that Joseph Smith was not aware of in his limited schooling, and in fact in his limited experience in life, that when I was reading it, I did a quick little pre-read, and this word in verse, where is it? Oh, in verse 19, curulams and kumams. On Pinterest, someone just created a pin on that I just pinned just the other day. Interesting the timing that this would come up in this chapter. But the picture, what does it say in here? Verse 19. It says, this is the only reference in the entire Book of Mormon to curulams and kumans, and we have no idea precisely what type of animals were meant. Again, I'm reading from Volume 4, Treasures from the Book of Mormon by W. Cleon Skousen. And he takes it verse by verse, which I only share just a few highlights occasionally. And it says, while Joseph Smith was translating the Book of Mormon, he always spelled out the names. This would lead us to suspect that the names curulams and kumams were Moroni's Hebrew designations for these animals, which could not be translated into English because they are now extinct. As we have, I think he's talking about the words are extinct, not the animals, because as you'll see later, we still have these animals. As we have pointed out in earlier study, horses also became extinct and had to be reintroduced by the Spaniards after the discovery of the Western Hemisphere. And since the Book of Mormon is also limited to Joseph Smith's personal vocabulary, it's possible that he was not aware of some pack animals used in South America, such as the llama, alpaca, or vicuna, and he therefore may have had to use the Nephite names for these animals because he was not familiar with them. I thought that was interesting. I've been watching on Netflix streaming this amazing series. I absolutely am so enjoying it. It's called MacLeod's Daughters, and it is set in Australia, and it is the unbelievable ongoing portrayal of the saga of the human condition, which started the story with two long-lost half-sisters that their father passed away and left one of them. One of them was already living there, but the other one, who was living out in the city, got a notice that she was a part owner of this amazing estate farm called Drover's Run. And in the attempt to populate and keep this farm growing and constantly evolving, they decided to transition to organic, which has been an interesting process to watch. And also they got some alpacas, and watching how they care for these alpacas and what they sound like and how they move and how easily, or more like how difficult it is to actually get up close to when they shear them for their wool. It's been very interesting to watch that. I've never had it up close and personal with farm animals before, but this series has been a great, almost like a sort of entertaining tutorial in caring for these kind of animals. In fact, I've wondered, is watching this series going to prepare me for something that's coming soon in my life? I don't know. Or maybe it's coming in the future, depending on what happens with our economy. Who knows what happens? It has been recommended to buy a home, have farmland, learn how to work the land. And I also, in the next chapter, they talk about, all the manner of that they became exceedingly rich in verse 17 going back. And the way that they describe being exceedingly rich, they have fruit and grain and silks and fine linen and gold and silver and precious things. And it doesn't say anywhere money, because they didn't have money like we have money today. That all of these things that they mention are items that have intrinsic value. And we have been counseled by many people to to increase our holdings of things that have intrinsic value, art, food, gold, things like that, because the dollar is going to be increasingly devalued the more that the government keeps on printing it. The more dollars they print, the less that they're worth. So I thought this was pretty interesting too. Then it goes on to say cattle, oxen, cows, sheep, swine, goats, and also many other kinds of animals which were useful for the food of man. Now, yesterday I told a joke, and it just sort of popped in my head while I was doing this, and right now at this very moment another joke popped in my head that somebody shared from the pulpit at church on Sunday. And so if you're listening, this will be your comic interlude perhaps. But this woman was driving down the street and she saw a little pig in the street. Now imagine, what's your experience with pigs? When I got home, I was talking to my husband. I said, one of my first houses I lived in was a townhome in Walnut, California, and we shared a common courtyard. And one day I looked out and there was a pig. Somebody was out there walking a pig, and it was really quite enormous. And we just couldn't help ourselves. We went out and we got up close and personal. We talked with the person and learned what really quite amazing pets they are. They can be potty trained. They're delightful, and I guess they're very clean. They don't have hair. And anyway, so that was that. And then I said, that I used to go see the pigs at the fair every time I would go see the farm animals when I went to the fair, and they were just amazing. Well, so, I mean, you think about, okay, a pig. So this lady sees a pig in her street. How unusual. And it wasn't an enormous one. It was a small one. And so she thought, wow, where did this pig come from? And she thought, it's going to get run over by a car. So she picked it up and she put it in her car and was driving around and saw a police officer and pulled over, and she asked the police officer, I found this pig in the street here, it's going to get run over or something, and what should I do with it? And the police officer told the woman to take the pig to the zoo. And so she said, okay, well, and then I said, I remember I whispered, I thought, the zoo? They don't belong in the zoo. I think they go on farms. But anyway, I digress. And she continued with the story. And a few weeks went by, and darned if that lady wasn't seen with a pig in her car by that same police officer. And he pulled her over and he said, ma'am, I thought I told you to take that pig to the zoo. And she said, well, I did that. And then I took him to Universal Studios, and I took him to the movies, and now I have a happy pig. So there's that little joke. You take your pig to the zoo. Wah, wah. Anyway, so that's also a lesson on communication. What exactly did you mean by that? Okay, so now back to the scriptures, okay, and what all this means. There was something else that popped in my head as I was reading this. I went to the Museum of Art several years ago, and which one was it? I'm trying to picture. I can see in my head. I don't know if it was the Getty Museum or just a different museum. But anyway, I remember walking through a specific place in the museum where it seemed to be all, not Renaissance art, but it certainly wasn't contemporary. And I remember just getting grossed out because all these pictures were of hanging animals, their carcasses, hanging by their like outside of their window in their homes. And I just was getting disgusted. You know why? Because I didn't grow up in that era. I didn't grow up on a farm, and I'm not used to butchering or slaughtering or cutting the head off a chicken. But by the way, that Drover's Run, they do all of those things there. It's quite fascinating. They have to put animals down. They make them for dinner. They have contracts with gourmet food chains, and restaurants, and so you kind of see the other end of it, up close and personal, what it takes to have this kind of a life where that's where you get your food instead of from the store. Well, excuse me. So here we are, and I remember just really, it was almost turning my stomach, and I thought, would I become a vegetarian if I had to do those things myself? If I had to, pluck feathers off a chicken or kill a lamb? I'm just not quite sure, but it was almost turning my stomach. In fact, I remember one year after I had moved to Massachusetts, it was the first Thanksgiving we had on our own when I was sort of a young married, maybe 4 years into my first marriage. And I made a turkey, and a whole turkey, the whole shebang. And I was so disgusted with all the innards and the little bag of the neck and the gizzards and the kidney, and seriously, I almost threw up, and I just thought, I can't do this. I'm never making a turkey again, and I haven't. I've made a turkey breast before, but I've never made a full-on turkey before. I just thought, why? How come I'm such a wimp about this? But anyway, so with that frame of mind, now me seeing all this art that has these hanging animals, and also in watching that old Christmas movie where Scrooge sends this boy to go pick out a big Christmas goose, that was a sign of wealth. And when I asked somebody in the museum about this artwork, that's what they said. They said, oh, think about this. Art is something that is not always for the poor, it's for the wealthy. And so the people who are artists don't want to paint pictures of barren and poor people. They paint pictures of wealth. And that's, I remember that feeling like, wow, we just take so much for granted that's, that we'll go to a clean store and, buy food in packages. And if there's any liquid around, oh, we don't want to buy that one. But the truth is, it comes from someplace, and it comes from these animals. And that was a great sign of prosperity and wealth. And in this scripture block, it talks about this is one of the Lord's blessings poured out upon these people, was that they had abundance. And until that they were full of iniquity, would they be destroyed, and would they experience famine and pestilence. And it's interesting as I observe the increase in food right now, and what happened with Hurricane Sandy, which was recent, how the stores' shelves clear out immediately and there isn't food to be had, and how people, oh my gosh, I heard another place that somebody even ate somebody of their own family to survive. It was absolutely, this is crazy, but this is today. I'm not talking about back in the day, I'm talking about today in 2012. It's quite an amazing thing what people will do when they're not used to sacrificing or going without food. Another observation, and I know I'm kind of jumping around, but gosh, I just have such a little time doing this commentary, and I just want to get what I can as far as the most important principles in here that apply to us today. Overall, I'm thinking about the dysfunction of these family people who absolutely they hate each other, and they go through generations, and the father who's jealous of his son and starves him to death in prison, literally starves him to death, and then the brother who, he wants to kill his dad because he did that to his brother, and just this general just hatred for each other. It's just so sad. Well, one thing that's interesting too, that I want to highlight is when you are wicked and you have these secret combinations to the degree that they had there, it's pretty scary that even the people who establish it, who are in on establishing it, the wicked need to remember that they don't support each other. Even if they help each other to go to get somebody in a leadership position, when they are in that leadership position, the people who helped get them there, they'll throw that person under the bus so that they can be the leader. And when you're not a righteous person and you surround yourself with wicked people, there is no support there. There's no feeling safe. And I see that even today. I mean, not just in movies, but in real life, that people are very ready to point fingers at, to destroy, to even in our media. They build up somebody, and then as soon as that person is on their way to success and stardom, they find out some scandal and reveal it and destroy that person, and do it with glee. It's almost like they enjoy doing it. And this year, I mean, it was just a fascinating phenomenon to watch as we were, politically speaking, how we had all these candidates who put themselves on the front lines for scrutiny. And it was interesting because there wasn't like one enormous front runner. It's like they took turns, and one person would be in front, and then boom, 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 all the different things would come up about that person, and they'd drop out of the race. There was Herman Cain, and then there was, anyway, there was a succession of people who, once they got to the top, and they were like the media darlings, and the people loved them, then as soon as they got to the top, they did whatever they could to find out the dirt and eliminate those people. Is it any wonder? I mean, really, is it any wonder that we can't find candidates who are willing to serve their country and do their duty to put themselves in a leadership role because of that kind of stuff? And then we finally had somebody who was a decent person, and look how they absolutely just vilified him for whatever. They looked for things, they searched for things, and all they could find was that back in the day, decades before, he gave someone a haircut and he put his dog on the top of his car. I think those were the two worst things that they could find. And so here's a man who is a man of honor, who spent his life in service, who's been giving people jobs, and they absolutely just tried to paint him like he was a horrible person. So I don't know, I kind of think, we get what we deserve. We cast out people who are good people, and we embrace people who are wicked. And so I think it says more about not the prince of fools who's chosen, but the people of fools that put them there. One more final thought. Oh my gosh, I'm going out of time. Talked about poisonous serpents, snakes, and I have been fortunate enough to not have to deal with snakes in my life, but I remember there's a little scene in a movie called 17 Miracles where these little girls left a wagon train. It was during pioneer times, and the floor was covered with snakes outside. The ground was covered with snakes, and one of the miracles was that they were able to make their way back without getting bitten by a snake. Pretty astounding. So snakes. We'll end there on that. We'll end there on that note. And I do hope that you enjoy our time together. And please do leave comments. And if you'd like to include questions, I'm welcome that. I think this is great. So thank you very much for joining me. And we'll see you tomorrow. Ether 8.